Well, hello, friends. Welcome. My name is Laura Leese, and I am a spiritual director. And today I am joined by my friend, Leslie Abizzatti. And we are recording this about a week out to Lent of 2026, but we're hopeful that this information could live on as long as it's a blessing. So, Leslie, if you could share a little bit more about who you are.
Great. Thanks, Laura. So good to be with you.
Thank you.
I know we're a lot warmer here in Atlanta than you are in Chicagoland.
Indeed.
My name is Leslie, as Laura mentioned, and I live in Atlanta with my husband and three children. They're all grown now, and I just became a grandmother a couple months ago, so it's a joy of my life at the moment. Probably always will be.
Mhm.
And I am involved in right now, just kind of focused on my family and the book that I just recently wrote, The Desert Walk, including some weekly blogs. It just, the way the Lord inspires me to share what He's sharing in my heart, I feel hopefully blesses other people. I've been involved in women's ministry for quite some time. I've done retreats. I've worked in a church kitchen, preparing meals for teens, just lots of things. I have a real heart for women's ministry. Love prayer groups and just the intentionality of gathering people together to pray and just talk about
Mhm.
the Lord and what He's doing, the Holy Spirit and how He's moving. So anywhere the Lord sort of leads
Mhm.
me, I follow
That's
blindly
beautiful.
sometimes. Yes.
Indeed, right? So, Leslie, I know you have just published this book, The Desert Walk, right, getting us ready for Lent. But as we've been talking about, it can be used any time of the year. So, how did the book come about?
Yeah, so I came about almost 10 years ago,
Mm.
and it came to me before Lent. I had been praying to the Lord, what are we going to do for Lent this year, Lord? And I prefaced that with I had started a different kind of prayer routine leading into Lent. Instead of doing, okay, let me just give up this or give up
Mm.
chocolate, give up wine. One year I did both. That was not good for the people around me. But as Lent approached, I began this practice of, okay, Lord, how do you want us to walk through Lent? And so I had been
Mm.
doing that for a couple of years. And so as Lent approached close to 10 years ago, I had started about 2 weeks prior to Ash Wednesday to just start praying, Lord, how do you want to lead me this season? And nothing would come and nothing would come. And so every morning I'd go to my little prayer chair and just wait and listen, and nothing would come.
Mm.
So I thought, okay, Lord, it's the day before Ash Wednesday. What do you want of me? And all of a sudden, I heard his voice in my heart just super clearly. He says, I want you to write about our journey together through the desert for 40 days. I thought, I can do that. And then he said, and share it. I was like, oh, wait just a minute now. I had recently started a
Mm.
blog. And so I knew when he said share it, like that's where he wanted it shared.
Mm.
And I've had these conversations with the Lord before where I'm like, wait a minute, there's got to be somebody more qualified. There's got to be somebody who's got the credentials. Who am I to share this? And by the way, Lord, I don't like to tell people what's happening, in my private life and in
Mhm.
the interior, except with maybe a small circle.
Yes.
So when I hear the Lord, I had to say yes. I knew what he had asked, and so I said yes. And of course there was the worry, okay, well, what happens if I don't have 40 days of content? What happens if there's nothing to say? What if people don't like it? What if I'm rejected? So all of those things are going through my mind.
Mm.
But I said yes, and I began. Every morning we'd meet in the den in my little prayer chair early in the morning before the rest of my family got up. And every morning there was just this theme that he developed. And when the 40 days finished, I realized I was like, oh, wow, Lord, this
Mm.
is a framework for a book one day. And so I knew that one day it would be, but I was in the midst of raising children, middle
Mhm.
school and teenagers, and a traveling husband. And that just wasn't the season to
Mhm.
do that. But he gave it to me, and then it got stored away.
Mm. How long was it stored away, Leslie?
Gosh, probably before I sort of picked it up again and said, maybe this is a time to begin, it was probably at least 6 or 7 years. And
Okay.
then the process of, okay, now let me go look up my notes and let me look up journals, and I had them on my blog, so I was able to find them all and creating documents, that whole process of the logistical process. And then that took time of just sitting with it, writing, rewriting,
Mm.
asking for feedback from people, rewriting again and revising, and then allowing some folks, not allowing, but inviting folks who wanted to help with the journey to actually use it as their Lenten
Mm.
devotional a couple of years, so that I had some friends who
Mm.
did that for me, and they would give me feedback and input, and that was incredibly just invaluable.
Mm. It's amazing. Thank you for giving us a little uh, idea of the taste of what it was like to get to this
Mhm.
moment.
Yes.
So, what is the book about?
So, as you said, Laura, it's definitely it's a Lenten journey. It is really about my personal journal time with the Lord, but it's all of these different themes, and I'll just throw some out there because
Mhm.
I think they apply to all of us at different seasons in our lives. So it's not necessarily that the book can only be used for Lent. There's seasons, for example, one of the chapters, and they're short chapters, so you can probably spend 15 minutes a day, or if you wanted to spend longer, you certainly could. Sandpaper people was the what the Lord told me. And this was about people, and I know we all have these
Mm.
that kind of rub us the wrong way,
Mm.
but God puts them in our lives for a reason because He's refining us
Mm.
and teaching us through that. There's things about endurance when we're in difficult seasons, or really long seasons that are trying,
Mm.
where we need perseverance, endurance. One of the chapters that was probably the most eye-opening for me is one on spiritual agility.
Mm.
And agility is just something that we need in our lives. And I never thought about that in a spiritual context. You know, sometimes when you're raising a family or in work settings, you have to be agile because things are always changing and you
Mm.
never quite know what's coming at you. But the same is true in our spiritual lives. And so
Mm.
incorporating that theme of being flexible and being agile, and being able to pivot if the Lord is asking you to move in a
Mm.
different direction. So for me anyway, there were themes that I felt I could use throughout the year, although
Mm.
specifically it was in the context of Lent.
Mm. It's beautiful. And I know there are 40 themes to go with each of the 40 days of Lent, and so rich. And if you stick with our recording, we're going to have a little sample of that here today as well. Who would you say, Leslie, is the intended audience of the book?
Yeah, so I feel
Mm.
like it could be for anybody.
Hmm.
I've had young people go through the book, and young people purchase the book already. Certainly women for sure, since I obviously have probably more of a female voice. My husband's gone through it, one of my sons. So I think it's definitely
Mm.
a book that can be used by anybody. My dad
Mm.
was very instrumental in the
Oh.
very beginning of, and Laura, you know this, at the very beginning of the early revisions. He read every chapter and would comment on it. So my father was involved in that. So I really
Mm.
think that if you are looking to have a different experience using contemplative prayer, imaginative prayer, I say that the Lord gave us our imagination so that it can also be used not only when we create and during our lives, but also during prayer.
Mm.
And so he helped me to not just hear themes, but to actually see in my mind's eye, and using that imaginative prayer to kind of envision yourself in the desert with the
Mm.
Lord,
Mm.
2000 years ago in modern day. And so I think when we place ourselves in that sort of structure, or are able to envision that, things come to life in a different way than when you're
Mm.
just praying verbally. So there's something very beautiful about using our senses
Mm.
to pray. And that was one of the things that I felt like when I was in the desert. It was almost like you feel the heat of the day, you feel the dryness. And I think when we can really immerse ourselves in that, it just brings so much more to light.
Mm. Beautiful. And it is not what we typically think of prayer, rote prayers and written out for us, and those have their purpose. And this is a little different. And so, this idea of contemplative prayer, and I love, of course, the idea of imaginative prayer. St. Ignatius
Mhm.
of Loyola, known for this in particular, guided imagery prayer. And each of your chapters, really short entry, and then these three questions. And number three is always imagine yourself now walking with the Lord and in what's going on for that day. And I'm like, oh, I want to go right to that. I want to kind of skip through everything else. I thought, no, it's good to have the background.
Yeah.
So I've appreciate, Leslie, there's not a ton of content. At the same time, it's very rich.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when I was writing, I was like, wait, should there be more?
Hmm.
And it wasn't, there wasn't more. The Lord wanted to keep it
Hmm.
simple.
Yes.
And I think just the beauty sometimes of simplicity is
Yes.
it just things can come to the forefront easier. I know we can all, I'm guilty of this, just get laden down with a lot of things.
Hmm.
Life is busy, life is loud, it's noisy, there's a lot of distractions. And I think the beauty of the simplicity of kind of using our imagination
Hmm.
with the backdrop of the desert, which is barren
Yes.
and is quiet, and it's a time to just spend with the Lord. And I was just recently doing a little
Hmm.
reading on the different people that were drawn into the desert. And of course, we all know, John the Baptist and of course Jesus before the call of
Hmm.
his ministry. But John the Baptist was brought in to prepare the way. And in order for him to prepare the way, he had to be taken away from the world so
Hmm.
that those distractions weren't there. And also clarity. I find that
Hmm.
when we can remove some of that clutter that happens, that we just have, we have to be intentional about removing it because I feel like it's everywhere. But that's what I was thinking. John the Baptist, he had to have that clarity, that listening for the Lord and his voice. And so
Hmm.
that's why he was in the desert. And of course, we've got
Hmm.
the Israelites who are being
Yeah.
reformed. Elijah, he's hiding in the cave.
Hmm.
There's restoration for him before he
Hmm.
comes out. But always this drawing into this quiet place. And I
Hmm.
didn't always used to see the desert like that or Lent.
Hmm.
In
Yeah.
fact, I share that in my book. I think I did anyway. It's like a love-hate relationship, right? We know that Lent is such a beautiful season,
Hmm.
but at the same time, it's like, oh, it's a season I have to go without, or it's a season I have
Hmm.
to give up something. And I remember when I was writing, thinking, wow, why do I always think about what I have to
Hmm.
give up? What if my mindset were, what do I have to gain from
Hmm.
coming into the desert?
Yes.
And one of my friends who was super instrumental in reading it, she's like, I found these treasures. And
Hmm.
so I love that imagery of as we walk through the desert, like what treasures does the Lord have for us?
Hmm.
There's a lot of healing elements in the book. That was part of my own personal journey of
Hmm.
healing. But I believe He's just got all of this beauty. And again, that's not to negate that we want to maybe add a spiritual discipline during Lent. That's a beautiful
Yeah.
practice. Or to fast from something. I mean, those are
Hmm.
beautiful things that are important for our spiritual lives.
Yeah.
But to also consider that there's some beautiful treasures that the Lord wants to reveal through just spending time with Him
Yeah.
in that imaginative, contemplative prayer space.
Oh, it's
And one of
beautiful.
the things that helped me too when this was way back when I first received it, was like, okay, well, if the Lord is in the desert and I'm here with Him,
Hmm.
oh, He can be in the car with me when I'm driving in traffic, right? He
Absolutely.
can be in the kitchen when, the kids are going crazy and I was, young mom and all of the things. So as opposed to compartmentalizing
Hmm.
and, oh, I feel all this peace when I'm at mass, or I feel all this peace when I'm in the chapel, or I feel all this peace in my prayer time. It's like, no, no, no. We're supposed to take that with us. And
Hmm.
I think the book, just as the Lord was growing me and continues to grow me, is don't forget to bring me with you.
Hmm.
Don't forget that my presence is always accessible.
Hmm.
It's not just when we're in our prayer time.
Yes. I mean, and some of these concepts are so new for us, brought up in the church, that to think that it's beyond just the mass hour, and the idea too of, oh, scripture, you're helping scripture come to life for us, maybe beyond hearing it in the readings. So Leslie, as a person might be working through the book, are there resources to help us go further and deeper as well?
Yes, I
Mm.
realized as I was writing the book that there's sometimes some big things that can come up for us,
Yeah.
and there are things that just need to, the Lord wants to heal them. That's why they
Yeah.
come up.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I was talking to a young man who said he was just going through some difficult things. And then I thought, yes, however, as those things, as you work through them, what a grace to be doing this now when you're young.
Mm.
But there's just this beautiful healing that happens. We're maybe climbing up the hill to Calvary and it's awful and it's painful and it's suffering. But
Mm.
oh, how glorious, right? When
Mm.
we get through that to the resurrection. And I feel like that's what
Mm.
awaits us. So, yes, at the end of the book, I have a whole section on
Mhm.
resources.
Great.
because there are times where we do need external help. And it's
Mhm.
okay to reach out to a spiritual director or spiritual coach or
Mhm.
Christian counselor or
Mhm.
spiritual brothers and sisters that can help
Yeah.
us through. So I do have some resources, some podcasts that I recommend, and some books that I recommend.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you. So, Leslie, as I mentioned, we promised that you give us a little sampling from the book. I
Yes.
wonder if we could do that, if you can tell us kind of where you're going to be sharing from.
Yes. Yes. So what kind of has been popping out to me is day 11, and it's the theme that the Lord gave me that day for this day is exposure.
Mm.
And so just to give a little bit of context, because I'm just going to read a couple short passages, is when I was growing up as a high schooler, my parents had a dark room, a photographic dark room in their basement. My dad loved to dabble with photography. And so there was a season where I kind of got into it as well. And so as the Lord gave me this theme, he brought back to me this dark room that I used to go and mess around in and play. And this was black and white, developing photographs. And so he was reminding me that the heart is very much like that film canister,
Mm.
that's sometimes it's closed rather tightly.
Mm.
And it takes some prying to open that heart, open that canister as it does to open the heart.
Mm.
And that the heart is like that canister of film
Mm.
that is just waiting to be developed. And we don't
Mm.
know the beauty that resides inside of the heart or the canister until we allow it to be opened up and developed.
Mm.
So I'll
Beautiful.
read just a couple little passages.
Thank you.
So the heart may be likened to film, at times hidden in a rigid casing, containing a lot of beauty that is waiting to be exposed. The negatives only become beautiful photographs through a multiple step process. The first step is always to pry the canister open in the dark and remove the film. Then you can begin developing the film. I wonder what beauty lies within my heart, waiting to be exposed. Thinking about Jesus' heart, I can barely imagine the fullness of its beauty and love.
Mm.
I want a heart like his, and I want to love as he loves. However, the journey into the heart can be long. It involves peeling back many layers that have accumulated over the years. Unveiling the heart can be painful and time consuming, but I want Jesus to continue to develop my heart and bring light to its hidden places. He holds my heart close to his, and exposure and healing will occur to the extent I'm willing to allow. Jesus, I trust you will carefully open my heart and develop it, just like film in a dark room is developed fully.
Mm.
I want all your beauty in me revealed.
Mm.
So as you spend time with Jesus, ask him to peel away the layers around your heart. Write down what you experience as Jesus helps you uncover the abundant beauty that resides in your heart.
Mm. It's beautiful. Thank you, Leslie. And so each of these topics has you have space within each day after the reflection, a patch of scripture, a quote from one of the saints or beloved ancients and mystics from the past. I mean, there's just so much packed into this. It looks very thin, but do not be fooled. There is much here. There's much here. And I'm a person, I love to sit with it and like, oh, if I have an hour, but I only need a few minutes, but I might allow it to take more time. It's as much or as little as you want it to be, I think. And I think that's the other theme is, as we get older in particular, it's like, oh, it's another Lent. Like, oh, it's another opportunity. It's an invitation, allowing God to stretch me in new ways. And so this just came out. This is a brand new resource for us to consider different ways of being with the Lord. So I think that's exciting in itself. So I'm so grateful for your, if you will, obedience, your perseverance and tenacity to get to this moment. It's
Yeah.
incredible to witness this
Yes.
with you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And I just wanted to add too that as people read this, if
Mm,
you're, for example, that particular theme exposure, if the Lord takes you in a completely different
mm,
direction
good,
during your prayer time with Him, don't feel that, oh, but I have three questions to answer.
good,
Just let Him guide the process. This is just
good.
something to help and something to help and to guide. But if He's like, if He makes a hard left, just go with it.
I love that. Yeah, I'm the kind of person where I look at the contents and I say, well, this is the one I want to learn about today. I don't really want that one. So I think that, you know what?
Yeah.
If you're, we're adults, we can work with what we need to. And especially the ones we don't really want to look at, I'm sure they'll come up in other ways anyhow. So
Yes.
we'll just let that happen. So yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. I love the idea of just a little experiential experience for our listeners today. Is there anything else, Leslie, you want to mention while we're on our call today?
Oh gosh. You know what? Just one thing. Just
Mm,
my prayer, I guess, would be that as folks read this,
mm,
you really experience God's love,
mm,
because sometimes during Lent we can be a little harsh or I don't know, we might forget that piece of compassion and love. And I just hope that as folks sit and read and pray and invite the Lord into that space and invite yourself into that space of
mm,
imaginative prayer, that you feel His love because He loves you
mm.
very much.
It's beautiful. Thank you, Leslie. And everyone, thank you for listening in today. With this video, we have a little bit of information below, links to the book, to Leslie's website, to a recording that she did with some other folks, where there's a little more depth about her background and her personal spiritual journey related to this that I believe would also bless you. So, and as always, if you ever need any more support or encouragement, just feel free to reach out to us here at our website as well. So, Leslie, thank you so much for your time
Thank
today.
you. Thank you, Laura.